Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. As always, I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
And we're back again with another action-packed episode for you guys today to end off the work week. And before we begin, though, Anthony, we're about 2-3 days away from WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. I know this is a football podcast. People will be like, oh, man, now they're going to talk about wrestling all of a sudden. But me and you, I grew up watching during the Attitude Era.
Same.
You're still into it.
I'm into it. Well, see, I'm into it in the sense of, like, I follow it on YouTube the day after, like, with short little clips, but I don't actually watch Monday Night Raw or SmackDown. Like, I understand what goes on more or less when it happens, but I just kind of want to get, like, little, like, bullet points on it. Like, I don't... It's not enough for me to watch it all the time. Now, with that said, I'll watch the big ones, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, stuff like that. But as far as, like, every day watch, like, 2 or 3 of them, nah, I got time for that.
Nah, me neither, man. I'm kind of, like, in the same boat, though.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I think this is one of the main cards that I've been excited to watch. I think this is the first one I'm going to watch since, like, the first time The Rock and John Cena wrestled. I think we know that one that was quote unquote
5 years ago or something.
The one that was like quote unquote once in a lifetime when they lied to us and they did it again
the next year.
Yeah, right. But anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there. We'll probably talk about it before at the end of the show because you know it's WrestleMania week. You know it's just as not as big, but they tried to make it as big as the Super Bowl week when they have.
I mean, it is their Super Bowl.
It's
the Daytona 500. It's the World Series. It's their number one thing, right? It's a thing that even if you're not like a wrestling fan, you've probably at least heard like WrestleMania. Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Like people who have no idea about it, like you say WrestleMania, it's like, oh yeah, that's the thing. Like they at least know what that part of it is. All
right. Well, to start the show today regarding football news, looks like LaDainian Tomlinson.
Mm-hmm.
He's returning to the Chargers in a, how do I say this role? He's going back to as an assistant to the owner, whatever that means. And when we saw this headline, Anthony, we were like, what does that even mean?
Right.
He's going to become a special assistant to ownership. Remember, the Chargers are making a big move to L.A.
Right.
A move that's pretty much drew a lot of criticism. And LaDainian Tomlinson is an NFL Network analyst. He's actually going to remain in that current role. But I think this is a way for them to kind of easily make the transition a little bit easier with a little bit of like star power a little bit because LaDainian Tomlinson was one of the biggest stars to play for the Chargers in the history of the game. He had one of the best seasons for a running back of all time.
Yeah. No, So, yeah, like you said, when this first came, we were like, okay, what exactly does this mean? And then you go on NFL.com and like, all right, what is this thing? So, you know, the thing basically says, like, you know, he's going to be an special assistant to ownership, will remain with his current role as well, because right now he's with the NFL Network. So he'll stay with his current job on NFL Network, but, you know, kind of reading a little bit more, it says the Chargers say Tomlinson will be helping further develop fan engagement and community relations programs for the Los Angeles Chargers, still weird to say, by maintaining an active presence in the community, building on the momentum the team has established with its call to, quote, fight for L.A. A few things on this. Okay, one, if he's staying with his job at the NFL Network, that means he's not doing a lot of things for this current team. It sounds kind of like figureheady kind of things where it's just basically like you're kind of doing the, you know, Rafiki thing in Lion King where you're just basically like holding someone up. It's like, hey, look at him. Look at who we have. Look at LaDainian. We have him. Look at him. Love him. Kind of thing, right? Like
Rafiki.
Right. And that's what's going on with Tomlinson, right? And you get the situation where they're still going to be with the NFL. And the other thing it says, like, established, you know, with its call to, quote, fight for L.A. You didn't play in L.A. Like, I understand San Diego's close to L.A. and everything, but it's not L.A. Like, you didn't play for the L.A. Chargers. You played for the San Diego Chargers. So that seems weird on its face, too. Like, you want LaDainian Tomlinson to stay with the team. Cool. I totally get that because you are literally transitioning to the LA area now, which is different than San Diego. So I get that you kind of want to have some kind of familiar face to be there, right? Like if Antonio Gates had retired, they probably bring him back too. So I at least understand what they're doing with that. But at the same time, like this sounds just like something where it's just like you want LT to be a part of the team so that way you can say we bring back our old players and this is the name that you know and trust and stuff like that. Like, I feel like that's all they're doing with this.
Yeah, basically, like I said, it's just like a star name. And
right.
LaDainian Tomlinson, he was one of the iconic figures in Chargers franchise history.
Right.
I think if he played on another team, like New York during his prime, he probably would have even been a bigger name.
Right.
But honestly, though, I kind of have to agree with you. It's like, if he's still in his current role, how much is he going to be involved with the LA Chargers? Like,
right.
It says that he's going to help, with fan engagement, community relations. But what does that really mean for this franchise? And, LA, this is going to be their new team. And it looks like they're not going to have a lot of fan support. It's going to take a while for them to do that. They're probably, on paper, the better team than the Rams. The Rams look like they can go for another underwhelming season.
Right.
They could probably get like 4 or 5 wins, unless Jared Goff performs out of his mind and becomes that franchise quarterback that they think they can be. It's honestly just a move to pretty much get people talking about the Chargers, especially in the local media over there.
Right.
Exactly. That's all it is.
That's fine. Like, if you want to lie to me and say, like, oh, he's going to be a big part of the organization. No, he's not. Like, that's fine. If you want to, like, throw him out as a figurehead, totally get it. I understand that. I don't, think anything different with that. Like, that's something that people do a lot of times. Like, I'm totally cool with that. But also, like you said, this is just pay no attention to the fact that we're going to be playing in, like, a really, really small stadium. And pay no attention to the fact that once we actually get the new stadium and everything else like that, they're not going to be the tenants on the lease. Like, they're going to be on there, I should say, but, like, they're not going to be the number one. Like, they're going to be what the Clippers are for the Staples Center in LA for the basketball team, right? Lakers have number one priority on that. They don't. I think the Clippers might even be below the Kings on that aspect. And the Chargers, like, the thing that worked out with Kroenke with the Rams is he's building the new stadium, and the revenues, a lot of it's going to go for him, right? He's going to get a lot of the, profits that come from that, to where, what's the name? I forget the name of the guy for the Chargers, the owner.
Dean Spanos?
Spanos, yeah. Like, they're just kind of there, right? Like, why they moved there in the first place, I don't fully understand. Like, I'm sure they're probably going to get more money from LA than they did from San Diego, but you're going to be what the Clippers are. You're going to be the second tenant in there. You're going to be what I think the Jets are with the football stadium in New Jersey, right? Like, you're not the number one team. You're there, and that's fine, but you're not making the money that you could if you were to build your own stadium, which I guess they were trying for a long time in San Diego and couldn't do. But, like, yeah, like, this whole Chargers thing is just basically trying to play like a shell game, right? Like, just kind of moving stuff around, like, paying no attention to the man behind the curtain, just kind of, like, moving stuff around. I don't know, man, like, this whole Chargers thing, because they're not going to be good either, right? Like, the team is going to stink. And not stink, but, like, best case scenario, 8-8? Because you still got Phillip Rivers, who's good, and you have...
And they're in a tough division, too.
Yeah, that's the other part, too. The Chiefs are really good, the Raiders are really good, and the Broncos are really good. They're the fourth team in that division, and it's not going to be that close unless, the Raiders all of a sudden do Raider things and kind of, like, revert back to what they were for the past decade.
Oh, I mean, that would be terrible for Las Vegas.
Dude, but honestly, that's the other thing that I'm, like, kind of interested to see with the Raiders, too, because you get the situation with the Raiders where, okay, you've been bad forever, but now you're good. Cool. Also, you have the situation where if you win the Super Bowl this year, you'll be able to celebrate it next year, right? Because you'll have the, banner raising and celebrating everything else like that. But if you win it next year, you're going into Las Vegas with a title of like, hey, Oakland Raiders champions in Las Vegas. Like, that's going to be really strange, right?
Yeah.
And even if you win it this year, like, there's no real guarantee that they're going to play in Oakland next year, because there's already, like, I'm already seeing, like, kind of, like, reports where it's just like the city of Oakland's like, yeah, you guys can go bleep yourself. Like, we're not going to support you if you're going to leave us, kind of thing, right? It's like, I'm not going to stay together with my wife in this house if she's already basically threatened to divorce me just because the kids are here, kind of thing. Like, there is definitely a potential that this gets really ugly for the Raiders in a year. Because with the Chargers, what happened with them is they always kind of like dangled the carrot in the sense where it's just like, oh, maybe we stay, maybe we stay, maybe we stay. And then once last year ended, it was just like, nope, we're gone. and then they leave. There's not like this lingering year or two limbo kind of thing where it's just like, oh, we're leaving. If you would like to pay to come here, you can. Okay, bye. And then just kind of go away.
Yeah, and it's crazy to see how we got a team in LA I honestly think that the team in LA should have been the Raiders, but nothing could have worked out there.
Right.
And I don't think the NFL wanted 3 teams and sorting California.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I get that part of it.
Yeah. But I do want to point something out. The Chargers actually sold out their season tickets in the 27,000-seat StubHub Center.
Oh, yeah. That's
So
that part's not necessarily hard. Like 27,000 for football, that's not bad. That's $10,000 more than what like certain NBA stadiums get, and you got to do those 82 times, and they can still sell those out. So yeah, trying to do that for football, 8 games a year, no, that's not bad to do at all.
Yeah, and then they're about to share the Inglewood Stadium too, when that's finally finally done being constructed about a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
So LA Chargers are basically the New York Jets of LA.
The Clippers, whatever double team you want to talk about, like that team that has a stadium that has 2 different teams in there. Yeah.
And we're like 3 years away from having a LA Chargers and Las Vegas Raiders game.
Right.
I never thought I would ever see that.
That is
I feel like I'm living like 2050 right now.
I do want to go to Vegas though for a Raider game.
I do. I really want to see that new stadium.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to. I don't know. Ever since going to the Golden One Center here in Sacramento,
right?
I feel like I'm in 2025. I feel like if I go to that Raiders game in Vegas when the new stadium is built, I feel like I'll be in 2050.
Yeah.
So I actually am excited about that new stadium. It gives me a chance to go to Vegas finally.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to take a break here. We're getting a little off track here, so I think that's time to take a break here. But when we return, one of the big stories here was Joe Mixon. He's actually out of the New England Patriots draft board. So we will discuss the former Oklahoma Sooner when we come back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back to Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. And one of the stories from the past week, we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but Joe Mixon, he's one of the top running backs in the draft this year.
Right.
And the New England Patriots, who they won the Super Bowl, so I don't really think they need him. But, they look like they kind of have a need at the running back position, because I don't think they're going to go after – I don't think they're going to re-sign LeGarrette Blount, or else it would have happened already.
Right.
They added Rex Burkhead of the Cincinnati Bengals. They just have a lot – and they added Brandon Cooks. So they had a lot of weapons there.
They just don't have their lead running back, because
exactly.
That's not what Burkhead's going to be.
No, he's not.
Right.
But, this is a Patriots team that doesn't really – they don't – use running backs a lot like most teams do. They're not a power running team.
No.
Just say that. But, I think Mixon could have fit this team well. And, like Christian McCaffrey, he's an excellent fit for the Patriots for what they do. But getting back to Joe Mixon here, the Patriots have scratched Joe Mixon off their draft board because of his previous assault incident that happened in 2014 when he was a freshman in Oklahoma.
Right. Yeah,
and we saw the video. We talked about this a lot.
Sure.
The video is pretty horrendous. It is terrible. We all know what happened to the girl who was hit by Mixon. She suffered 4 broken bones in the face, and it's a terrible story.
Yeah,
and it's probably going to follow Joe Mixon's career. So it looks like that one team we know for sure is going to scratch Joe Mixon off the list. And under Robert Kraft, who is the Patriots owner, they have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to domestic violence. Even though Mixon's assault is not really defined as that, but it's pretty darn close.
Right.
And honestly, though, that's one team off the board. But I still don't think that's going to hurt Joe Mixon's draft stock. This is a running back loaded class. And, we've seen time and time again that talent has exceeded, incidents from the past players. Just look at the history of the past, 10 years in the NFL. We've seen all these players that have these little, well, I shouldn't say little, but these incidents that have become legal battles. They still play because they're talented enough. And Joe Mixon falls in that category because, he's one of the top running backs in the draft. I think he's a phenomenal talent. But remember, we can't forget about, Mixon's incident. So do you think a lot of teams are going to scratch Mixon off the draft board? I think there might be a few, but I still think he's going to have a lot of interest when the time comes in April 27th.
So it's all a matter of need, right? If you are the Cowboys, you're not taking him because why?
Yeah, why would you do that?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you are the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're not going to take him again because why? It all depends on the situation of a team, right? And the Patriots, you could say, are one of those teams. They have the zero tolerance policy. And, cool, awesome. Them being zero tolerance is cool because you can basically kind of pinpoint things okay, cool. So apparently that's not what they're about. You can make jokes about but they're cool with having Aaron Hernandez. Okay, fine, different things. But
I think that's kind of why they have that policy there too.
No, they had the policy way before Hernandez. That wasn't Hernandez thing. They had this policy way before Hernandez. But I get it, right? I get how teams are going to be scared away from him because it's one of those things where, it's going to come with a lot of baggage, right? And from all of it sounds like he's worth the baggage, right? It sounds like he's one of the players that is, if not number 1, 2, or 3, as far as running backs go, in a draft that has, like you said, really good running backs. You got Fournette, you got Christian McCaffrey, you have all these people who we know and have been good for the last, at least 1 or 2 years. So now you take a situation of, okay, will he be blackballed? No. I don't think he's going to be blackballed because he's too young and talented to do that. That tends to happen when you get older, right? That tends to be a Greg Hardy situation where we as a collective base are kind of yeah, never mind, you can go home. Or in something like baseball, like Barry Bonds. Go look at Barry Bonds' last year in baseball. He got blackballed from MLB at the very end. He was still having an OPS over 1,000 when he finally was done. That's blackballed. This, I think, it's just a situation where just certain people have different things, right? Because you can have a zero tolerance about domestic violence, or you can have zero tolerance on drunk driving, or you can have zero tolerance on a bunch of different things, right? You can have certain things where you're just I don't care what the situation is, be it through family history or just emotional connections. You have these certain things that you're just I don't care what the situation is. I'm not doing this, right? You could have a history of drug addicts in your family, right? To where you're just I'm not going to do any kind of drugs, even prescription stuff, right? You could totally just have a visceral, emotional feel towards those things. And with the Patriots, this is domestic violence, right? This thing where they're just nope, we're not doing this. I don't care. You might be a great player. You might be the number 1 running back in the draft. Don't care. We'll figure out a way without you. And I respect that to a certain degree. Now, the whole NFL can't do that because that's collusion and that's bad. But for one team to basically say, yeah, look, we're not going to be that team, I respect that because, you got to kind of, in a way, respect what they're doing because, what's the joke with the Patriots? It's always just they'll take the scraps and make them into something good, right? They'll take Michael Floyd, who literally we saw in video passed out at the wheel, drunk, right? Not no, he was gone, man.
He was on 1 times 2. So technically he was on 2.
And so you get the Gronkowski, who's just basically lives his life in excess, right? But this whole situation with Mixon, like I said, he's going to have to deal with this the rest of his career. And that's fine because, I mean, literally that's your choice of what you did. Like, you made this bed, you sleep in it now. Now, will something like the Seahawks go after him? Maybe. Will the Vikings go after him? No, because they just got Murray. Never mind. Scratch the Vikings. Will the... I'm trying to think of a team that doesn't have like a good enough...
I can think
the Niners go after him? You know,
I
they have Hyde, but...
I don't know if they would, because I remember in the press conference when they introduced John Lynch that they wanted to bring high-character guys.
Sure.
So I don't know if
Will the Jets go after him?
I can see the Jets go after Mixon.
Right.
I definitely can. That would be a New York Jets type of move.
Will the Jaguars go after him?
I don't know. I think the Jaguars might go for Leonard Fournette.
Sure. But like then, there are teams out there that will sign Joe Mixon. Like, you know, the morality stand that they took with not Adrian Peterson, well, I guess kind of Adrian Peterson too, but to a different degree. The morality stance they took with Ray Rice and Greg Hardy are different because with Greg Hardy, he had no contrition for what he did.
And then not only that, Greg Hardy, you know, the photos of his then ex-girlfriend that he assaulted,
right?
They were pretty bad. They were bad,
right? Well, so was the video for Mixon,
and then the video for Mixon is pretty bad too.
But Mixon seems like he's like.
I think the good thing for Mixon though is that this happened at a young enough age that he can pretty much get away from it, even though it's not going to go anywhere. I think he's young enough to say, you know, I made a mistake and this should never happened. And he has apologized for it.
Yeah, no, he has done miles more than what Hardy did. And with Ray Rice was super apologetic, super contrite about what he did.
And then,
problem was he was 30.
Yeah, that too. And then he was kind of at the tail end of his career. Well, not kind of, he was.
Right.
And the thing about the Ray Rice thing was that not only was news and sports, that was like national news.
That was everywhere, man.
It was news. Like it was literally everywhere. And the Greg Hardy thing was practically the same thing. The Joe Mixon video didn't really get a lot of coverage as the Ray Rice and Greg Hardy news. Maybe that's because, you know, he's not an NFL player yet.
Right.
But we can't forget about the video of Mixon. This is going to pretty much haunt him. And
well, let's put it like this. You know who Tyreek Hill is, right?
Of course, yeah. You know, he had
his thing, and we didn't figure about that until, I should say we didn't figure it out, but that was like, that didn't become like headline national news until he started doing really well. But we know about that with him, and there's no video with that. But every time someone talks about Tyreek Hill, it's like, oh yeah, he also had the thing where he may have assaulted his pregnant wife. So, but that follows him, and there's no video with that. With Mixon, this will always follow him. He will be Michael Vick, right? Persona non grata for a lot of different people. But at the same time, does that mean he shouldn't have a job? No, because like you kind of take things and you kind of go from there. Because because it's a slippery slope with one specific reason. By no means should you necessarily have yourself associated at all with domestic violence as a team. That's a bad look, right? But at the same time, if you're literally going to give someone like a one-time, like, okay, and you're never going to change as a person, then you are creating a culture of people who are, afraid to come forward, because then all of a sudden you've incentivized basically saying, like, if this comes out, we don't sign you. Okay, well, if you're associated with that person and they get money from this, now you're taking away their livelihood. And B, you're literally saying no one can grow from things, right? You can't say someone can be a changed person. You're saying they can't be someone who learns from their mistakes. Sometimes the best people come because they've made terrible decisions in the past. Like, you have people who are really awesome people now because they went through stuff and they're just like, wow, I was a terrible person. Like, I was a jerk back then and I'm better now, because you kind of can see it as thrown in your face. So at that point, like, I don't think this whole, you know, zero tolerance works in that aspect. But at the same time, you need to shine light on certain things. Like, it's like a weird balancing tightrope to walk. But for at least the Patriots, they're like, yeah, don't care. We're not taking you. Which, you know, you can like it or hate it, but I can at least respect it.
Yeah, I really do respect their the way that they went about Mixon. And honestly, though, they're the type of team that don't really need him anyway.
Sure.
I think I can see the Patriots take, you know, Christian McCaffrey if he's there at 32.
That's just
and, you know, and then
do that stuff.
And we all know the jokes about that. And definitely, I know you know the jokes about, you know, Christian McCaffrey going to the Patriots. Oh, they sure would do that because why? Because
he's well with Danny Woodhead and
you want to know why
Amendola.
he fits up? He fits well
Huh.
because he's white running back.
They had
I had to say it.
They had Danny Amendola. They had Woodhead. They had Edelman. They had Hogan.
And they have Burkhead now.
And they had a running back whose last name was White. Like,
James White, and he's not,
so, but yeah, no, like, I think with the Patriots, they'll obviously be fine. They'll find a different running back, whether it's Fournette, McCaffrey, whoever else, and they'll be fine. Just, it'll be without Mixon.
Yeah, it will. And then, honestly, the Patriots, they're a Super Bowl contender again, so they'll be fine without Mixon. But I do think Mixon will go to a team. He probably won't go in the first round because of his past. But he definitely will be a great pick at the second or third round. I can see a team like the Browns, the Lions, the Broncos maybe. The Saints have even talked about bringing Mixon in for a pre-draft visit. So I do expect him to go to a team that actually does have a need, and I expect him to have major success. But honestly, no matter how successful Mixon is, this video will never go away. No. And you know what? And it shouldn't.
Right.
And it shouldn't at all. All right, well, we're going to take our last break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about one of our other boys here, Michael Bennett. We all, one of the Bennett brothers, and some things that he said regarding Richard Sherman and what the FBI should do after finding Tom Brady's jersey. So, and I agree with his FBI comments. You'll understand why when we return to the Guns to Me Concepts football podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to Guns to Me Concepts Football Podcast. And, Michael Bennett, one of the, defensive players on the Seahawks, one of the most impactful players in the defensive line. Well, he's part of the Bennett brothers. Of course, Martellus Bennett is his brother as well. The Bennett brothers are known to say, pretty much
whatever they want.
Yeah, pretty much. I was looking for a term, but that's a better way to put it in layman's terms. But yeah, they pretty much are the type of people that say what's on their mind. But honestly, though, they don't say anything that's too bad. But, Michael Bennett, he was on Undisputed on Fox Sports 1. He talked about how he'll be surprised if the Seahawks will trade Richard Sherman.
Right.
He did throw some shade at the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Of course he did.
He has some really strong, well, I shouldn't say strong, but he has some comments about the FBI finding Tom Brady's jersey. Mm-hmm. And he did say, regarding the FBI and the Tom Brady missing jersey, he said that the FBI, that they can find Tom Brady's jersey in Mexico, but they can't find who killed Biggie and Tupac. And you know what? I agree with him. How come we can't find the pure person or people that killed Biggie and Tupac? Why can't we find it, Anthony?
It's been, 20 years? Give or take? Something like 20 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're never going to find it. They're never going to figure that part of it out.
It's a cold case for a reason.
And the other thing with Bennett, he was basically talking about, every single game's about a point or so, right? Because the NFL's, a league of, basically everyone's sort of in the same area. They want everything to be parodied and stuff like that. That's why if you're bad, you get a high draft pick. They want, a lot of the teams to be kind of the same. Then you get the Patriots kind of at a different level. So his thing was basically says, most of the NFL games are decided by 1 point, unless you're playing for the Jaguars or something, then it's decided by 50. Why? Why do you hate the Jaguars so much, Michael? Why? Who hurt you with them? I understand they're bad. Don't get me wrong. They haven't been good, basically,
I'm surprised he didn't say the Browns. That's the first thing I would have thought of. That's
a fair point, actually.
Yeah, why did he go out to Jacksonville?
Don't get me wrong. They're not good either, but, Yeah, like the Browns are like historically bad. Like at least because since they got back to Cleveland in 1999, they've had that screenshot of a dude who had like a jersey of whatever the quarterback was, and then they like Sharpied out that name, and then they had like all the names of the quarterbacks they've had on a little piece of paper, and that list was long. They're bad. The Jaguars, at least when they first got there, were a pretty good team with Mark Brunell. Then they had Byron Leftwich and David Garrard. Like, they've had success in Jacksonville. Now, not a lot of success, and recently it's been not success at all. But they at least had some success when they first got to there. Browns, they've been to the playoffs, once since 1999? Like, they had that one thing with Derek Anderson, but yeah, like, Bennett, what are you doing? Go after Cleveland. Everyone goes after Cleveland. People go after Cleveland, not even the Browns. They just go after Cleveland. Like, basically, it took
they go for the city.
Yeah, it took a Herculean effort by LeBron James to get them one championship in the NBA, and that took basically like all of his strength because he doesn't have any of it this year because they stink this year. It basically like zapped all of their good juju, all of it, all the good juju they had was all taken away last year. The Browns almost went winless. The Indians were up 3-1. They lost in the World Series. So, like, yeah, go after the Browns. No one will care if you go after the Browns. They'll go with you with the Browns. They'll go. Like, Joe Thomas, who plays for the Browns, probably would be like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. All right. How do I follow that? I don't. But anyways, yeah, my almost Tom Martellus. Michael Bennett, he talked about how he disagreed with the NFL's decision to pretty much outlaw players from leaping over the line to block field goals and extra point attempts. And that's the reason why he threw shade at the Jacksonville Jaguars. He said, most of the NFL games are decided by 1 point. Unless you're playing the Jaguars or something, then it's decided by 50 points. That 1 point blocking that, it makes a difference. So that's the reason why he threw the shade. I think he just thought of the first team in his head, and he's like, who's a bad team? Who's bad last year? The Browns, no, everyone picks on them.
I gotta go.
I'm surprised they didn't pick the Niners in his own division. They were terrible last year. I'm surprised he didn't go after them.
See, but I feel like he respects them enough. Like, yeah, they're bad now, but at least they were good recently. Like, I feel like he respects them enough.
That's true.
He doesn't like him, but he's probably just like, yeah, they were good at one time. Like, sometime recently, stuff like that. So, like, I feel like he's just kind of like, it's fine. But to where, like, the Jaguars, no, man, like they
honestly, I think Jacksonville Jaguars might be kind of almost a sleeper team. And don't worry, I'm not going to pick them to win the division again, guys. I'm not going to do that again. I remember before, I think in August or July, I had the Jaguars winning the AFC South.
How'd that go?
It didn't go so well.
It did not.
I'm not going to do that again.
But
I will say, though, I really do like a lot of the young talent there in Jacksonville. I think this can be a really good defense. I remember it's just a matter of putting all the pieces together. They made some big moves on defense, signing A.J. Bouye, Calais Campbell. They spend a lot of money. But, they also did draft well on defense the past couple of years, and then they just haven't been able to put it together due to injuries and, other things. The offense is a huge problem in Jacksonville. I think this is a make-or-break year for Blake Bortles. I think they should bring in Colin Kaepernick to be a backup there. I think that'd be a great spot for him. Yeah. Or maybe I don't want them to bring in Jay Cutler because Jay Cutler will pretty much torch that team apart. I think he will. But anyways.
Jay Cutler is – I'm trying to think of like an equivalent of Jay Cutler, right? Like Jay Cutler is like no, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, Anthony.
Well, what I'm going to say is it nice, but I was trying to see like where I go. Jay Cutler, okay, fine, whatever I'll say. Jay Cutler's the girlfriend that you have that's kind of like, it's kind of crazy, but you like her, but it's always just like you assume the best out of her. It's like, oh, no, she's fine. She's not that bad. No. Yeah, you said she's crazy. No, she's not that crazy. She's fine. She's fine. Why is your car on fire? Don't worry about when my car's on fire. I need a different car anyways. That car's old. I'm going to get a new one. It's fine. Like, Jay Cutler has, like, the strong arm, which everybody loves, and they are like, oh, I can make this work. I can get this quarterback to do well for me. And then basically 3 or 4 years later, no. Like, whether it was Denver or Chicago or wherever he goes next, he's going to be a quarterback that people think, like, oh, he can be great. No, he cannot. Like, he can be, he just won't be. Like, that's not how this goes with him. He kind of just does dumb stuff. Like, he'll see someone triple team and it's like, I can make that throw. And then he throws it and it's like, intercepted. And it's just like, okay, well, that didn't work out. And he just goes to the sideline. Why'd you throw that pass? I don't know, Coach. I thought I could do it. Are you upset about
Yeah.
it? I mean, I didn't like to throw interceptions. I'll try not to do it next time, but I'm not promising anything. There's like reports recently that he might retire. Jay Cutler, like they were throwing that out there with the possibility, and I mean, why? If you're Jay Cutler, like you're going to try and compete for a starting quarterback job wherever you go, and I guess what he's probably weighing the thing of just like, would I rather retire or be a starter for the Browns and get my head caved in every single time, right? Like, because that's got to hurt playing behind like a bad offensive line if you go to one of those teams. Because he's not going to go to a good team. He's going to go to a bad team, which probably has a bad offensive line, which means he gets hits more, which means his body hurts. Like, it's just basically weighing if you want to be in pain or not.
Yeah, and you know what, Anthony? You know where I would love to see the Bennett brothers at? I would
like combined on the same team?
No, not about that, but I was going to say something. I would like to see them, be involved in WrestleMania. I think, can you imagine like the promos that they can do?
Who's the best Bennett brothers? Is it Michael or is it Martellus? Which one's the better one of
the
two?
It depends because, they both play on separate sides. Martellus Bennett plays on offense.
Right.
Michael Bennett plays on defense.
Right.
But, they talk a lot of trash.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would like to see him cut a promo for WWE, and the reason why I mentioned WWE is because WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And I wanted to end the show talking about WrestleMania for a little bit, but
okay.
Yeah, so you are going to watch it.
Yes.
I'm very excited for it.
Yes.
So what are some of the things you're excited to see from the event this Sunday?
I want to see. There's only a couple of matches that I actually care about, right? Like I care about the Undertaker because it's the Undertaker, but I have hesitations and trepidations about that because there's the potential of basically turning the crowd against the entire event if one thing goes.
Yeah, no,
badly with that.
we talked about this. Yeah.
I want to see Jericho versus Kevin Owens because Jericho's amazing. He's been amazing for decades now, literally decades now. And I want to see Triple H versus Seth Rollins. Like those are the three matches that I actually care about a lot. Everything else on the card, if I miss it, that's fine. But those three matches, like I really, really want to see. Even the WWE title, like I don't care. Oh, and also Lesnar. Goldberg,
Lesnar Goldberg,
because Goldberg's my childhood, and I love him, and I want to see him do big things, even though I feel like he's going to lose, because that's kind of how the story looks like it's progressing.
Man, I was watching a video on Goldberg working out for WWE WrestleMania, and man, dude, he goes to the gym like 3 times a day. And I'm like, wow, I barely go like once a week.
You understand that Goldberg's like 50, though.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
And
that's the thing that's amazing in itself.
Yeah, well, that's why but I say that for that reason because, like, when he was at his peak in, like, 97 or something like that, 20 years ago, he was in obviously, like, supremely good shape. That dude was like...
Hey, remember, he came from playing the NFL for the Falcons, too. So,
right.
Yeah.
He was on the Falcons for a second. And then went to WCW and then became one of the top wrestlers in all the world. And, when you get older, you kind of have to work out a little bit more. Like, your body can't necessarily just be like, oh, yeah, we'll fine. We'll work out once a week and eat Taco Bell. That's not how your body works when you get older. But, yeah, dude, that dude still, like, looks like a freak of nature, man. Like, he still looks like somebody that's just like, how in the world are you that big, man? Like, how do you – wait, what – huh? How do your muscles have muscles on muscles? Like what? That's not
like that one SpongeBob episode. I got muscles on my muscles. I got muscles on my eyes.
Yeah. He has muscles on everything. Like that dude has muscles on his eyebrows. Not like the skin on his eyebrows, the hair. Like there's muscles on the hair of his eyebrows.
And then like there's a little flex on it.
Yes, 100%. His like fingernail muscles. Like that whole dude is massive, and that's not.
He can flex his finger too.
Yeah.
Like that. And then you can see the muscle inside. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Also, the person he's going against, Brock Lesnar, muscles. Like
muscles versus muscles,
man. That dude is just, like, both of them are just like athletes. It's just like, huh, okay. So you're both massive people. Cool. I am not that big by any stretch. Good talk. All right.
Okay, before we go, I just want to say, like, the best way I can ask this is, like, which player in the NFL could you see or want to see kind of make a transition to the NFL
Gronk.
To WWE? You want to see Gronk?
Gronk.
Yeah.
Gronk. Like if the Bennett brothers are already out because we're already saying they could cut promos, Gronk.
Okay.
Gronk. Because Gronk would just be a bro. Which I guess they already have those characters in WWE right now, and like Mojo
yeah, he'd be
Rawley
like
stuff,
was it? He'll
Zack
be
Ryder, Mojo Rawley, like
he'll be part of the Hype Bros, dude. He'd be he'd be the manager, dude. I would love to see that.
You know, he actually did a kind of promo with Mojo Rawley,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I think they knew each other from I don't know how,
of course
but
they did.
Yeah,
of course they did. Those bros just like attract each other.
Well, isn't he a former like football player?
I think so.
Yeah, and that's kind of like how they know each other. But
yeah,
I would love to see that, man. Have Gronkowski make an appearance at WrestleMania. If the Hype Brothers ever actually have a match there, I don't think they ever will. But that would be something I would love to see. Can you imagine that? Like that's like bro on bro on bro.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be fun.
I'd be down to see that.
All right, well that's pretty much enough WrestleMania talk. Sorry we had to do that to you guys, but we're just decided. If you guys don't like it, then come back on Monday.
Right.
Come back on Monday. All right, well that concludes the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. As always, I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
And you guys come back on Monday. I will be back. I will discuss any type of news over the next 72 hours. All right, you guys have a good weekend.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.